Welcome, everyone. My name is Sue Willard. I am one of the Senior Associate Directors of Admissions here at HWS. I am an alum, and I am a person where financial aid was a huge part of me being able to attend HWS. So I'm happy to be here with all of you tonight. I'm joined by Lisa Hosky, who's our Director of Financial Aid, the star of the show. I am in admissions, but admissions and financial aid work together quite a bit. So the first thing, as you see on the screen, that we want to say is just congratulations to all of you. It has been one heck of a process for all of you. It's been a challenge for us with the FAFSA and the delays and the glitches, but we know that it is adding, obvious stress to all of you in an already stressful process. So we want to do whatever we can to help alleviate the stress that then we can alleviate and try to give you as much information as we can to help you through this process. And my colleagues, Lisa, like I said, who's your Director of Financial Aid, and Hannah Snyder, who also works with us in financial aid and is our first line of answering the phone. So usually you'll talk to her. But we're really happy that you're joining us tonight, and let's get it started. So Lisa, if you can push the slide forward, please. So basically, I'll start off with just a couple of general things for everyone to know. We did send an email out to all of our admitted students talking about our worry-free deposit, okay? Our worry-free deposit means that we will refund a deposit, and your deposits are $500 for most students. We'll refund a deposit up through June 17th if your child or you choose not to enroll due to financial reasons. Okay, so that is our worry-free deposit. All right. In addition to that, we have our net price calculator. It's another email that was sent out to all of our admitted students, and we're saying that you can go on, and I'll put in the chat our net price calculator link. Okay, you can go on and submit the information on our net price calculator, and yes, it asks for the 2021 tax information, and that is correct. Okay, and whatever the net price calculator comes out saying that your financial award will be, and you already know the merit amount, but whatever the financial award will be for institutional aid, we will guarantee that amount. And if the FAFSA, when the 2024-25 FAFSA, when we get that information, if that says that you should be awarded more money than what the net price calculator says, we will give you or award you the higher package as long as all of the information that you completed on the net price calculator is accurate. And it's very important when you complete the net price calculator to save the information that you inputted and also save the information that it outputs in terms of here is how much financial assistance you should be receiving. Okay. We have a lot of upcoming events with HWS on campus and off campus. We have a admitted student day on April 6th. We have another admitted student day on April 20th. In conjunction with those, on April 19th to 20th, we have a free bus coming from New York City via New Jersey for students in that general area if they want to take advantage of an overnight. We also have a bus coming from the Hartford and northwestern portion of Connecticut for the 21st through 22nd. We have a bunch of off-campus admitted student celebrations in the next 3 weeks. So if you need more information on that, you can always go to the application portal. And, to connect with us tonight, if you have questions, I'll be monitoring the chat. Lisa will not be monitoring the chat at all. So if you have questions, you can either put it in the general chat or you can send them directly to me. Okay. And in terms of communicating, I'll say this now, and we can also, I'll send it via the chat as well. In terms of connecting with us, if you have any questions about merit scholarships, you should reach out to admissions. Okay. You can reach out directly to the counselor who works with your child, or if you're the student on this, whoever works with you directly, or you can reach out to admissions in general at our number and our email address, which I'll put in the chat. If you have any general questions about financial aid, you can call our general financial aid number, or you can email us at finaid@hws.edu, and I'll put that information in. So those are general financial aid questions. If you'd like to connect with Lisa after this about maybe more specific questions about your particular financial situation or extenuating circumstances, you can contact her directly via email. And I'll also send Calendly links so you can set up a Zoom appointment if you'd like to do that. But without further ado, I think we can send it over to the star of the show, Lisa Hosky. I don't think I missed anything, but please let me know if you do. Oh, and it asks if the net price calculator will include merit or any additional funding. So if we want to, before we go any further, the merit amount, it's on the decision letter that everyone receives, how much merit aid they're receiving. The net price calculator, Lisa, do you want to take it from there? I believe it's just institutional grant that it talks about.
Sure. Oh, 1 second. Well, hi, everybody. I hope things are going well for you. I'm trying to, oh, there we go. Next steps and timeline. So first, before I get into some of this, Sue mentioned the net price calculator. As long as the information that you put in there is accurate for 2021, we will honor it, as Sue said. Print it all out, send it to me if you want me to look at it to see if it's reasonable and if it makes sense. Was there something else you wanted me to mention, Sue, that I forgot as I was trying to flip the screen?
I don't think so. There was a question. People are asking the calculator requests the 2021 financial information. It's okay. We understand that the 2022 information is used for this current upcoming, so the 2024 FAFSA. We know the 2021 information is what you should submit into the net price calculator. So, but we will honor that, as like Lisa said, and I said, as long as all the information is accurate, that you submitted in the net price calculator, we will honor whatever award is higher, whether it's the 2024-25 FAFSA or the net price calculator.
And if your circumstances are significantly different in 2022 and it shows on your taxes, that will come through when we do receive the FAFSA. So there's not going to be any harm if it actually makes you more eligible. Like Sue said, you'll get more funding. If there's other things that we need to talk about more specifically, I would encourage you to use the contact information Sue is sending with my email and the Calendly link. So as many of you probably know, the admissions offer, although good, and we've got some really good scholars in this class, is not the end of the story. If you have completed, or you can complete if you have not, it's not too late, the 24-25 FAFSA, you will be considered for additional funding and receive another letter. That additional funding is generally need-based, so it looks at all of the information that you put on the FAFSA, and it helps me evaluate what you are able to receive. This is really big news. It's like right off the presses today. We started receiving FAFSA data. However, to manage expectations, it's coming in at a trickle. So as we get it, we're bringing it in the system and we're doing all of the things we need to do, but we haven't got like a big dump of 3,000 FAFSAs, and it's probably going to take a week or two before all of them come in. But I'm excited that it's coming in because it's really late. For any of you who are feeling stressed about this season, I've been in financial aid for more than 25 years and I have never seen anything like it. So if it's at all helpful for me to validate your feelings, yes, this is a little bit outside the norm. It is stressful for everyone, and we will do the best we can to help you navigate through that. So as I said, they're coming in, and we will create those financial aid packages for you as quickly as we possibly can. Hannah and I and one other staff member that we have will be working tirelessly to try to get those aid packages out to you, so you can make some very thoughtful decisions about college attendance. We will send it to you as quickly as we can. We will do it as soon as possible. Please be patient with us. It is going to take a bit of time. If you imagine how you're feeling really crunched with all of the time shrinking for you to make a decision, we're feeling really crunched for the time to produce all of those letters. We would have usually started this back in January. So we're going to have like 1 month. I've already warned my husband, he's probably not going to see me for a month. Letters will be available as soon as they are ready. The financial aid letters will be available for you in the portal that your student uses for admissions. And like Sue said, any merit scholarships you have already is listed on the admission letter. We will also mail hard copy letters home in case your student forgets to tell you that, the financial aid came in. That will be useful. And appointments will be available virtually and in person. We will be, I can pretty much do virtual appointments, and if you click on the Calendly link that Sue is providing, anything that's open will come up and you can pick that. In person, I will usually be more available on Mondays and Fridays if you're going to be on site. We will have Hannah available probably on Wednesdays and Thursdays for the most part. So if you really prefer in person, please let me know. But virtual is pretty easy to schedule with me. And we will help you work through it all. one of the things I thought would be helpful as we prepare for this rather unique season is to at least give you all some idea about how to look at and evaluate financial aid packages, not only from us, from other schools. And I want you to know that I will help you work through that as you get them. At least that's a little work we can do ahead of time to prepare for the information. So the federal government requires that financial aid offices create what's called a cost of attendance. For purposes of understanding this, that's basically a budget, right? And we need to look at what tuition and fees cost. We need to look at food and housing. We have to estimate what books will be. And we estimate what transportation may cost, personal expenses, as much as, you think, okay, your student is living on campus and they have all of the food covered. Occasionally, they're going to still need to buy shampoo or, they're going to want to buy pizza, right? And then the federal government allows us to also keep to include loan fees. So if you take a federal loan, the federal government takes a percentage of that off the top for borrowing you money. So we add that in as a cost that you're going to incur. Before I go on, Sue, is there any questions about the cost of attendance in the chat that I should address before we move forward?
Nope, you're okay.
Okay, good. And I know I'm probably going to go a little fast, and part of that, just so you all know, is I do want to make sure we have enough time for questions at the end, because I'm sure that there are many. So the first thing is the cost of attendance. After that's set, and that has to basically survive any scrutiny from auditors from our perspective. So we try to be thoughtful with that. Then I take the information that's been sent in from the FAFSA, and it gives me a number called the Student Aid Index, or the SAI. And what that does for me is it gives me a place to start to see what else you might be eligible to receive, so I can kind of put it together. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. Now, the scholarships that are merit-based, you do not need to repay, and you already know if you have them. Any additional specialty scholarships that came along with that, also the same thing. You don't need to repay them. To maintain those scholarships throughout the 4 years of study, it's full-time enrollment and good academic standing. Okay. Grants, which is what I look at when I get the FAFSA, don't need to be repaid either, but they're usually need-based. So I take that number from the FAFSA and I look at it and I say, what kind of grants can I obtain for this student, either from the college, from the federal government, or from the state. New York State has a pretty robust program, the New York State TAP grant. Most other states don't allow their programs to cross state lines, but I take that number and I look at, okay, what is the student eligible to receive? And the next thing I look at are what loans can I offer? Now, the only loans that I'm going to offer in a financial aid letter are going to be the federal loans that students can take out. There are private and parent loans, and we can talk about those later, but we don't put them in the award letter up front. And we also look at work opportunities. At HWS, not only do we use federal work study, but we also offer an institutional work program to help our students stay engaged and be successful and pretty much, buy their shampoo and pizza if that's what they need. Okay. So I'm looking at grants, I'm looking at loans, and I'm looking at work opportunities from various sources. And I'm trying to maximize what we can do for your student.
Can I just cut in really quickly, Lisa?
Sure.
Just to be clear, books, transportation, and personal expenses and loan fees are not covered by financial aid, but are just built into the budget for all of you to understand. They're not part of the direct build costs. Hannah, thank you for pointing that out. So just to be clear for everyone.
Right, they're built into the budget, and you can use loans to pay them if you need to, but we don't bill them. Good point. So to sort of make it real as we talk about it, because we can talk about things sort of in an abstract light, but what people really want to know is, what does that mean for me? So if you look at the HWS cost of attendance, our tuition and fees, and these right now are what I anticipate them to be. I think they still might need to be approved, but they're pretty accurate. So $65,117 is our tuition and fees. That does include a one-time orientation fee for first-time students. Food and housing is basically what you would think. It's living on campus and a food plan. Those will be directly billed. Books and supplies, we estimate $1,000. That's for the whole year, say $500 a semester. We don't bill you for that. It's something that you purchase, right?
Can
Personal,
can I just say one thing with books? There is a plan that students can opt into through our bookstore where it is an umbrella fee of, I think this year it was either 240 or $250 through Barnes and Noble, which is our bookstore, and students can opt into that. And if they opt into that program, all of the books for their classes will be no more than 200 and we'll say $250, but it is up to the student to determine if they want to choose that. So books wouldn't necessarily be $1,000, just to kind of put it in perspective. So pizza is also, I think, put in there as supplies, right, Lisa?
sometimes you got to have some sustenance to study for those finals, right? Is that suit, just because I haven't looked into it as much, is that a rental program or is that?
It's not a rental program. You actually can buy books through that. So say, for example, a student takes a foreign language class and foreign language courses, the books that they use for that, the language books are actually quite expensive. So, a Spanish book might be $100 and then they have 3 other classes. So the total cost for books might be, $350. But if they opt into this program, their books will only cost, I think it's around $250, $260, but that's something that students will get more information on. But just to put it in context, because I know there can be some sticker shock when it comes to all of that. So, but Lisa, I'll let you finish this, and then there is a question on cost of attendance when you're done.
Okay, sure. So personal order expenses are just what you think they might be. It's the occasional pizza, occasional shampoo, whatever the case might be. They might want to go out to dinner with their friends or attend some program. Transportation, we estimate 900 as well. That's going to vary a bit on where you live. If you need a higher transportation budget, which if you did get a higher transportation budget, would usually just be covered by loans. You can certainly talk with me about that. But for most students, depending on if they're driving, it works pretty well. And then loan fees, that's just an estimate. It's not something you pay. It just comes out of the loan proceeds. Okay. And what's the question, Sue?
Okay, so the question is, the HWS cost of attendance slide is different than the cost of attendance I filled out. Should the person redo their cost of attendance?
You mean on the net price calculator?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I think the net
Yeah,
price calculator is a different
yeah.
one.
The net price calculator is going to be a little different because it's based on last year's information. It was just a tool we had in place to, provide something to you so we can get through this challenging season. So if you wanted to get, a little bit closer to accurate, you could certainly replace those numbers in the cost of attendance with the ones I'm sharing here and just kind of write them in and figure it out. I would anticipate, and this is regardless of what school that your son or daughter attends. Hang on, I started now. Sorry about that. I went to admit somebody in the waiting room. Whatever, oh gosh, now where was I with that? Oh, I would anticipate that every year you're likely to have a 1 to 3% increase in cost at the schools. I mean, that's just me talking. I'm not speaking on behalf of HWS, but having been in financial aid for well over 20 years, what I see at most schools is you build in if you're planning for the 4 years, build in a 1 to 3% increase in tuition and room and board. And that's not something, the aid doesn't usually go up to meet that. The loan amount does that a student is eligible for from the federal side, but the grants do not usually increase for that. So here's
another question is, it says, does transportation fall under parents' personal expenses? And that is correct. It does. Transportation is something that is not billed directly. That is
exactly
something that each family will incur on their own.
Absolutely. The only things that are billed directly really are the tuition fees, food and housing. Books and supplies, personal expenses, transportation, they all have some flexibility with how you manage them. That's a good question, and I should have said that. So I just put together a random package to kind of give you a sense of what it might look like. This is for specifically a New York State student who's probably a bit higher need because the Pell Grant's in there. When you look at a scholarship, that's equivalent to one of our higher scholarships, 38,000. That's the money that you don't need to repay. That's based on, all of the accomplishments that the student may have. The HWS grant is the one that's need-based. So that's when I look around and say, what's my budget and how much can I give the student? And it's driven by the SAI from the FAFSA. The federal Pell Grant is also driven by the FAFSA. New York State TAP, like everything, New York State has its own set of rules. So a student can apply for TAP that can go anywhere from, I think it's 500 to 5,665. And Hannah, feel free to correct me if I got that wrong. But it can be anywhere in between there. Federal loans are usually 5,500. That can be a mix of subsidized or unsubsidized. And what that means is part of it could be interest bearing and part of it may not. The part that's interest bearing while you're in school is going to be right now at 5.5% interest rate. And then we would usually offer some kind of work award for about $2,000. It's not too many hours. It's probably like 5 or 10 hours a week, if that. And that's good to help with some of those non-billable expenses a student might incur, like the shampoo and pizza. Right. So in this case, the total comes to 58,000. So before, and the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, taking that out. Any questions on this so far?
Actually, I would like to say, there was a question. I know, not all of you on this Zoom tonight are US citizens potentially. So we are talking quite a bit about the FAFSA for our international students. We require those students to submit obviously the CSS profile or the certification of finance since you're not able to submit the FAFSA, and we will do your financial aid award based on that. We are not accepting the CSS profile for domestic students, just to be clear. It's FAFSA is what we're using.
Yep, that's good. Those are all really good clarifying points.
And the TAP grant is between $500 and $5,665. Hannah, you are a wealth of knowledge tonight, so thank you for that. So that is just a little bit more information on that. And what is the deadline for submitting the TAP? That was the question. Is there a deadline? It's just awarded when we're going through it based on a family's financial need. That was a question that a person had.
So we estimate TAP, and then New York State tells us what they're actually going to get. And I think the deadline is quite late, isn't it? It's way into the spring. But if you actually want it to cover your bill, you're going to want to do it. I would recommend doing it by like October, November 1st at the absolute latest. And preferably before that, if you want it on the bill.
And the other question is, TAP is a New York State resident grant only. So just to be clear, that is also a question that that came up. So, and there is a question, Lisa, I know you might be talking about it later, but there was a question, when do federal loans need to start being paid back? Obviously, you might want to talk about the different types of loans. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to talk about that a little later?
I think we'll talk about that after we get through some of the slides, but it's a really good question. And I'm going to talk about a little bit with the loans after that. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So the next slide, this will show you cost of attendance budget, 85,754, which included the billable and non-billable expenses. If you subtract the financial aid, your out-of-pocket expenses in this case would be $27,754. That does include, it's really clear, it's important to make a distinction between what's billed and not billed. Billable expenses in this particular case is the 82,884, which that's the tuition, fees, food, and housing. And if you look, I only subtracted 56,000 out of the $58,000 package because I don't recommend students use their work to pay their bill. I recommend that they use that to get by on their day-to-day needs. And so your out-of-pocket expenses that you'll be billed for in this case are actually 26,884. Bills are generated by semester, even though your financial aid offer is by the year. So the first half of this 26,884 will be billed on July 1st and due on August 1st. And the second half will be billed on December 1st and due probably January 1st, right? Or right around there because we need them for the fall. So 13,442 in July and 13,442 in December. Does this make sense to everybody, the billable and non-billable, before I go to the next slide?
There is one question that says, when we filled out the FAFSA, it then prompted us New York resident to continue on to New York forms. I think this is the application for the TAP. Is that correct?
That is the correct. You can start your application there, and then there's also, you can go right to the TAP website and apply as well. But if you can do it right off the FAFSA, absolutely start with there. Good questions. Okay. Now I gotta get on to my next one. Here we go. As I said, bills are sent by semester in July and December. And there are options for paying that $27,000 balance that can include, I mean, you can make a full payment by the due dates, or you can use, if you have a college savings plan, a 529, you can use that or part of that. We offer a payment plan here at HWS that costs about, it's $25 this year. I think it's going to go up to about 30 next year when you'll be using it. The fee, but you pay the one-time fee, and then we can divide whatever is due over 3 to 5 months, depending on when you start the payment plan. Okay, if you sign up, like if you want to use the 5 months, you want to sign up for it as soon as you get the bill. That's one option. A Parent Plus loan is another option. The interest rate right now is at 8.05. For the Parent Plus loans, that's a federal loan. They don't look at income to debt ratio. They only look at positive or negative credit. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can also look at private loans who are often in the student's name, but they often require a cosigner. So that's something to think about. Or you can use a combination. You can say to your child, you know, we're going to pay this much out of the 529. We want to cosign a private loan for you, or do a parent loan, pay part of it. We can work with you on whatever combination of those options that you may want. Once we get to that point, if you need help navigating what that is, make an appointment or call. We can talk to you about it. There's positives and negatives to each. So for example, a Parent Plus loan, although the interest rate is high, there are protections with a Parent Plus loan that don't exist with a private loan sometimes. So like, you know, God forbid, a parent become permanently disabled, you can get that loan forgiven. A private loan, they're probably gonna want that cost. It's the same thing with death. God forbid something happened to the student or the parent loan can be forgiven. So it's almost like loan insurance. The private loans don't always have that protection. In the private loan, I don't have an interest rate by the private loans because they vary and they're based on credit worthiness.
One quick thing, Lisa and Hannah, thank you for bringing this up. Just to be clear, our payment plans are interest-free.
Yes, that's a good point. I should have said that. See, this is why I have such a great staff. But it just costs $30 to set up each semester. So, actually, let's go. Well, we can talk about this now, but we will get your financial aid packages out as quickly as possible. We understand the urgency you're feeling. There's nothing more stressful than trying to make sure our children get what they need and dealing with money, and we're right in the middle of it, and we know that, and we're going to do the best we can to help you as quickly as possible. We can discuss the payment options I just mentioned, or any special circumstances, like if there's been a job loss or if there's some kind of expense that's not accounted for in the FAFSA. I know sometimes families may be covering, say, care for an elderly parent that you really can't reflect there. We can talk about all of those things and what the best steps would take after the financial aid package has been received. And we are here to help. Now, I want to circle back to the question on loans that Sue brought up a few minutes ago. The federal student loans don't go into repayment until 6 months after your student leaves school, drops below half-time, or graduates. And I know that there's a lot in the news right now about student loan debt and how people are navigating through that. Having done this for so long, if students graduate with federal debt, which is going to be, a dependent student would be offered $5,500 in the first year, $6,500 in the second, $7,500, $7,500 in the third and fourth year. If they graduate with that total of debt, I think that's okay, because it's still less than the cost of a car. And it's a lot more important than a car. You're investing in yourself, right? At this fine institution. I think it's okay. Obviously, you want to minimize it if you can. But I don't lose sleep about that at night. And in fact, I had my own son take out loans when he just graduated from college in 2022. So I think sometimes the media, well, we have to be very thoughtful about debt. And if you don't have to take them, obviously don't. But the other positive side of that is, even if you don't have to take them, student loans are a great way for young students to start building credit. if they haven't had a job or had a credit card or done any of that, after 4 years in college, some jobs actually require credit scores. So it's an opportunity to sort of help build that up at whatever level you're comfortable. So I'm not trying to advocate to take out the loans. I am trying to mitigate the fear that I hear a lot in the media. Now, I think if you start getting into the situation where you're taking $100,000, $200,000 loan, obviously that's a problem, and we should talk before you make that decision. And if you haven't noticed yet, I'll be pretty honest about whether I think it's the right thing to do or not. I don't want our students to suffer unnecessarily. I think we want to be responsible, but we want to be thoughtful. So I think that answers the loan piece.
There actually are a couple questions about
Okay.
the different types of loans that we offer. So
Okay.
the subsidized and unsubsidized loans, and when interest starts accruing on
Okay,
those.
perfect. So the maximum you can get in a subsidized loan is 3,500 if you have a high enough need. That interest does not accrue while you're in school. The unsubsidized loan is 2,000, or if you don't have need, could be up to the full 5,500. And that interest does accrue the first time that it is first disbursement. So with the loans, it's half in the fall and half in the spring, just like bills. So if $2,000 is, taken in the loans in the fall, interest on an unsubsidized loan will accrue from the minute it's dispersed on 2,000. And then when the second part is dispersed in the spring, making it say a $4,000 loan, interest will accrue on 4,000. The interest on student loans is simple daily interest. So if you have the ability, I would say keeping up on the interest while you're in school, if you have one of the interest-bearing loans, is a positive thing.
And just to be clear, so everybody knows, the federal government only allows us to award subsidized loans up to the cost, not up to the cost, but up to a family's financial need. We cannot award subsidized loans if we've already met the family's need between grant and whatever portion of loan already.
Yeah. Yeah, the limits on the federal loans are determined by the federal government, and which ones we award you are also determined by the federal government within the budget. I maximize out the best interest of the student before I go to the next.
And Lisa, there is a question. What is the average net price paid after our financial assistance, so grants and loans?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but you can find it on the college scorecard.
I think that our award last year was around $48,000. I think that was our average award, right around there last year for families. But that was last year's data. I'm not sure. Obviously, we haven't dispersed any financial aid this year. So there is another question about the net price calculator. We do not see any of the information as an institution that you input into the net price calculator. That's why it is very important for you to save the information that you input into the net price calculator, and obviously save the information that it outputs to you. And that's what you would send to HWS if the 24-25 FAFSA shows that you should be receiving less financial assistance than the net price calculator says. So we don't see that. So please make sure you save it. Also, another very important fact is you can do the net price calculator, but until you receive your official financial award from HWS, and I know it's later than any of us would like to have it attend, to have a really thoughtful discussion about if there should be any or can be any adjustments made if you feel your family needs it. It's best to wait until after you receive the official financial award from HWS and then communicate with Lisa and Hannah about those concerns. But we can't do much until that FAFSA data for the 24-25 FAFSA is received, just so everyone knows.
And even if it's, and to piggyback on that a little bit, even if you do have very significantly different circumstances in 2022 than say you had in 2021. So when you filed that net price calculator, you don't think it accurately reflected anything. I don't have the FAFSA data yet, and I can't make any adjustments to it until that FAFSA is actually here, that data. And right now, they haven't even started, the Department of Education hasn't even started allowing us as financial aid people to make corrections. So there's really absolutely nothing we can do until after the official award letter is out and once that functionality is available.
And there's two general questions about the lovely glitches with the FAFSA. One person said, I completed the first steps of the FAFSA, as did my student. We are still waiting for the email invitation. Do you have me as a parent contributor to input my financial information? When I spoke to them today, they said I have to wait for the email to add that. Does that sound accurate? I completed the first step in January.
It's as accurate as anything I've heard so far. I think that the best thing to do is the student has to be the one to start the FAFSA. And as long as the student started the FAFSA, if there's any questions, you can talk on the chat. Seems to be the best way for people to get information on studentaid.gov. One thing that people often make a mistake with the FAFSA is you absolutely have to have two separate emails. You can't use the same email for the student and parent. They have to be unique and separate. So if you don't have a separate one right now, create a Gmail because that'll error out on you.
So there's another question, two questions on this. This question is, we did not add HWS at the time we filled out the FAFSA. We cannot add HWS until our FAFSA finishes processing. Will this decrease the amount of financial aid available that we would be eligible for?
No, I think that we're pretty equitable in how we award our money, how we award the money that we have, the funding that we have available. I mean, work study might run out if it's later, but we also offer institutional work options. So I don't think it should be a significant concern at this time.
And we know that, I mean, a lot of these glitches that are out of your control. It's something that is, the bumpy process with this FAFSA. So we are trying to be as empathetic as possible to everyone. We can't be all things to all people, but we're trying to be as empathetic as possible. Another person in the Zoom said, I was informed by customer service that you'll have to add access to add schools once the review is complete. And I think it's very important too, to make sure that parent signatures are on the FAFSA. That's something that's very easy to miss. And just making sure that a parent signature is on the FAFSA, because until we have all signatures, we're not able to really distribute financial aid. Hannah was kind enough to send the school code, so I'll put that in there. And then there is the question that we always get, Lisa, how do we work with families that will have multiples in college?
So the FAFSA does no longer accounts for that. The federal government does not make adjustments for that anymore. At HWS, we do consider that for our institutional aid. So we will look at that, because even though the federal government is not increasing grants or making adjustments for it, they still ask the question. So we'll know if you have multiples in school, and we'll consider that when we create your aid package.
So there's another great person here that said, they had the issue with the signature and said our student completed her part, invitation came to each parent, one parent invite was not received. We went back to the student portion, we were able to resend. After the FAFSA completes review, you can make changes per the customer service. So thank you for that information. I think it's a year that everyone needs to have a lot of patience. There is another question. It says we have to do the FAFSA every year, right? And should we expect the merit or other financial aid would be similar in subsequent years? So there was another question on that too. How consistent is need-based financial aid each year? And it's important for everyone to know any merit-based aid a student receives, so based on their academics, based on service or leadership, that is grant aid that you can count on every single year. And a student just has to maintain standard academic progress to retain that merit aid. So Lisa, do you want to handle the question about the FAFSA each year and then how awards might vary?
So yes, you need to do the FAFSA each year. And in addition, the merit does require satisfactory academic progress, but you also will have to be enrolled full-time to get the full merit as well. The need-based aid, from my perspective, and it's been a philosophy that's been supported since I've been here, I will do everything I can not to take away the grant. The grant will likely remain the same every year. Having said that, if you win the lotto, I probably won't feel bad about taking away the grant, right? But for the most part, your aid is going to stay the same. If something changes where, say, you get an outside scholarship that's significant, that impacts the aid calculation, the first thing I look at taking away is either work or loans. And then after I've exhausted all of that, which is called self-help, if I have to remove anything else, then I'll look at the grant. So it's not something that we change lightly or we change easily, or if I can avoid it, I change it all. I wanted to address one other thing too that came up about the FAFSA right before that, Sue. If as parents, you're filing a joint return, you only need to have one parent be a contributor. You just need the social security number of the other parent to finish. So you don't have to send it to both parents, one if you're a joint filer. It saves a little trouble.
That's actually great information. And there's another question. Do we consider private school tuition that families are paying for non-college education? Or, I mean, we can even extend that to graduate school that families might be paying for other dependents. So how do we handle that, Lisa?
All of those are really case by case, and you reach out to me. And then we talk about whether it would make a difference or not. Because I'm not going to make you do paperwork if it's not going to make a difference. But if I think that we can have a significant difference and improve your aid package, then we can look at that and the reasons behind it, kind of thing. These are good questions.
Okay, there is another question. If work study is to be possibly incorporated into the financial aid package, does the school consider the student's time, for instance, if they are to be playing a varsity sport year-round at HWS? I will say I was a varsity athlete here, and I work with many of our student athletes. Many of them have jobs, whether it's working a basketball game, cleaning the floor, to working in our dining hall, to working in the library. Student athletes can have jobs, but how about any other part of that question, Lisa?
No, I think that, I mean, there's not any way, we're not going to make up the money if the student can't earn it. It's just an opportunity for them to earn money if they can. And I do think that most of the people at HWS are bend over backwards to help our students maximize the resources and opportunities available to them. So I think it's doable, if that's something, but it's not required. If you don't want to take the work study, you certainly don't have to. But it won't be made up in grant.
Are there any other questions? That's all I've have received in the chat. Are there any other questions that the families might have? Actually, I do have one thing to add. So once, as Lisa said, once we start releasing those official financial aid awards, we will be releasing them, as she said, via mail, but we'll also be releasing them to the students' application portal, HWS application portal. And some students have not accessed their application portal because maybe that information went to their spam folder, or they're just having trouble accessing it. To do that, you should reach out to admissions, the email address that I put earlier. So admissions@hws.edu, and it's quite easy to reset that information. We cannot send that information directly to a parent or guardian. It has to be sent to the student directly, but we can reset that information or email with that information so they can log on. That is going to be the fastest way to receive your financial aid award. Because obviously snail mail takes a little while, and obviously for us to print and send those in the mail, it takes a little while. There's a question that actually I'll be able to answer. Are there extra costs or expenses for internships or study abroad? For internships, we do not charge for internships. We actually have a guaranteed internship or research opportunity here. And if it's an underpaid or unpaid experience, we will offer a stipend up to $3,000 for that. Okay. So it's basically a student submitting a budget saying, I need this much for housing, this much for a Metro card, this much for other miscellaneous expenses. So we do not have any extra costs for work with our career services office. Okay. The only extra expense would be if you go on a career trek and you need to get your own transportation down to New York City or Washington, D.C. or something like that. That is the only time there would be an extra expense potentially. There was also a question about study abroad. Studying abroad, if you're in Geneva, Switzerland versus Geneva, New York, is exactly the same cost as attending college here. For certain programs, if it's an affiliate program we're part of, there might be some minimal fees that students have to pay. And obviously, it's a little bit more expensive to fly to Geneva, Switzerland versus, transportation to Geneva, New York for most of our families. But we are not a school where if you can afford it, you can do it. We're a school that really bends over backwards to try to make sure that all these outside the classroom opportunities are accessible for all of our students. We even have funding for students where a flight to Geneva, Switzerland is something that they just can't afford. So we really try to, like I said, make sure all of these opportunities are accessible for everyone, regardless of your family's financial situation. So, but are there any other questions that Lisa can answer here? Lisa, is there any last thoughts that you have for the families?
Just please reach out if you need help, but please be patient as we try the best to get this out to you as quickly and efficiently as possible. We know that it's stressful. It's stressful for us as well, and we will do the best we can to make it as easy as we can during this very challenging season.
But thank you all for being part of this tonight. Congratulations on making it this far. The good news is, as Lisa said, we're starting to receive those ICERs, so we're starting to receive information from the FAFSA. So there's progress. But if you need anything, please, you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly or anyone else. But congratulations to all of you of the success that your children have had, and appreciate all of you joining us tonight, and have a great evening. And hopefully we'll see you on campus or off campus at one of our events soon.